got to him, the nose guard.
Welcome to the newest episode of The Huddle. My name is Irvin and unfortunately Cole couldn't make it to this episode either. But today we have an incredible guest on. I'm very excited to have him on. Great friend of mine, has been coaching for 5 years now, going on 6. He was the head coach of the junior high football team at Riverside. They just recently won the TRC championship, going 7-1 and 6-1 in conference. And he is the new high school offensive line coach. My friend Kayden Smith, better known as Coach K. Bro, let's just kind of start off with our relationship.
Yeah.
I mean, I came into Riverside, I think it was 5th grade. We weren't super close as soon as I got here.
Not right away.
I think once you started to play football, which was in 8th grade, right?
Yeah, it was 8th grade when I started playing football.
I mean, talk about just growing a relationship, growing a bond. I mean, senior year, we were just like this, inseparable. Yeah. You saw me, they saw you. It was just, it was crazy. Yeah. And I just want to talk about how you started a little bit later than usual, than everybody else did. Because I know RJ, he's been playing forever.
Oh, yeah.
Then I know I didn't start playing until 6th grade, so I was still playing Pee Wee. And then that led up, all the way through high school. So I want to talk about how come you started, I guess, we'll call it late, right?
Yeah.
Why did you start so late in playing football in 8th grade?
Pretty simple. I just wasn't a fan. I wasn't a football fan. I didn't know anything about pro football or college football or anything. Just did not come from like a super athletic family. I was like I was the only kid that played sports or anything. Right. And I started wrestling, and I was wrestling a few years prior to that. And then I had talked to Coach McGill a few times, Coach Walls a few times, and it was just like, all right, it's time to give it a shot. And then, just never really looked back after that.
And how do you think wrestling helped you with football?
Wrestling was huge because wrestling's a sport in its own. Like, it's just different.
Right.
And I think wrestling, in my opinion, is the only sport where you can genuinely use like every muscle, every muscle, every just being agile and things. And so that definitely helped me just be a better coordinated athlete, for the most part, if I could call myself that.
Right.
But
how many years prior did you start? So how many years did you wrestle before you started playing football?
So I started playing in the 8th grade. I think I got serious into wrestling in the 4th grade, but we didn't have a wrestling team.
Right.
So it was all private stuff that I was doing and traveling around and practicing with different schools and such. And wrestling was, that just stems, I'm a huge professional wrestling fan.
Right.
I always have been. So, I mean, obviously it's not the same thing, but
right.
But that definitely stemmed from there. And so wrestling was a huge part of my young life. It was the biggest part of my young life until I got into football.
Because I don't want to downplay it, because I know you went to correct me if I'm wrong, but did you go to state for wrestling? Because I remember there was a point in time where you had to leave school sometimes with Caleb Stevens to go wrestle at these meets.
Me and Caleb went my 7th grade year, and it was his 8th grade year. Now, I got a lot of help that tournament, and got a lot of help as far as other people losing when I needed them to lose and help me get there.
Okay.
But Caleb was phenomenal. He was a phenomenal athlete in general. But my 6th grade year I did, my 7th grade year I did, and then my 8th grade year I did not. But I had a ton of fun. I won some and I lost some. I got to wrestle some really, really big names. Like I wrestled the Caleb Romero. And I got first at a lot of tournaments, but if he was there, I was getting second. And that was for sure.
Man. I remember you talking about him so many times, bro.
He was phenomenal.
Say his name around you, just having flashbacks.
Oh yeah. And then it was funny because I would wrestle him as a freshman. I believe I wrestled him as a freshman, but like not even sniff the varsity field as a football player, as a freshman, and watch him, the guy that I was wrestling and competing with. I mean, not really, but but wrestling, go out there and play quarterback and safety out there, and it was just funny. But
right.
He was a dog.
What are your thoughts on kids playing multiple sports? And would you recommend that? Would you recommend them to stick to that one sport? Because, I mean, let's talk about it a little bit. A lot of the people here going to Riverside, they play the multiple sports. And I know Coach Hodge preaches that, don't just play one, you got to play all of them. But, I mean, for the most part, me and you only did one for a very long time.
Yeah. And I think that's just an interest standpoint.
Right.
I definitely, I want the kids to do whatever they want to do. And I think you should try things and do that. So yeah, I want them to play more than one sport if they want to.
Right.
I wasn't gonna go out and play basketball because I just didn't like it. It wasn't for me. And God, I mean, they didn't want me to either. Yeah. So I want them to do what they want to do, and So yeah, play as many sports as you want. I think it's definitely. If you're going to be that guy, like if you're going to go play baseball all year or whatever, if you're going to go play basketball and travel and do all that, and the rules say you have to make your school sport, your priority. But I think mentally and emotionally, you need to make it your priority when you're in season to be doing what you're supposed to do. But yeah, I think it's a great thing.
So I want to go in order here, right? Before we get too deep into your coaching career, I want to talk about your high school football career. But I know for a very long time you were always talking about how you wanted to be a coach. And I was always, because I know senior year, right? I think that's when it just kind of like we both kind of knew in the directions where we both wanted to go, because you were always talking about coaching. And you didn't not see me without a camera bag and the laptop bag on me on all times. So when did that kind of start creeping up into your head, like, hey, I do actually want to become a coach?
Yeah, I mean, I always said I did. And I took an interest in all the X's and O's and all of that. And, like, I was a right guard that could tell all 11 P guys what they should be doing. Like, and not that I would, but, like I'm saying, that I just knew that stuff. And so it clicked with me in that aspect. And so I knew I wanted to make it happen. Did I know it would happen the way it did? I wanted it to. Yeah. It went the way I wanted it to, but I didn't think it would happen like that. Did I think that I would still be going into 6 years here? No. Like, I don't know. Like, it went exactly how I wanted it to. Right. But I had no faith that it would go that way.
Okay.
So yeah.
So before we get too deep into that, let's go to the high school football career, because obviously we played together same year. Going into freshman, sophomore year, I mean, we just had really good football players.
Oh, yeah. We did.
There's a really good football team in front of us.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking about Connor Cotterman. We lost 1-2 games freshman year.
Yeah.
And then after that, we lose 2 or 3 games sophomore year. So, I mean, both of us really didn't get to touch that field up until junior year.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
So just kind of talk about, because I know it all, but just kind of talk about your junior season.
Yeah, so like my junior season, I think for the most part, I think it's a pretty common feeling to say that your junior year of football, and maybe of any sport, I can only say this with football because I was a one sport guy by that time. I think that's your funnest, like most overall fun year. And the reason I think that is because you're playing at your highest level. You still have a lot of growing to do, but you're playing varsity and you're having fun. But you still have a whole nother off season. You still have a lot of these things that's happening for you. But so I think that's the time you get to enjoy the moment, I guess, the most.
It's crazy you say that, man, because that is very, very true for me, especially just because of my injury. But
right.
Junior year, I also think it's just because, like, we always talked about wanting to be the very, very best class.
Yeah. And we weren't. We weren't even close.
But, like, we always had that conversation.
Oh, yeah.
And I promise you, brother, I tried. I tried so hard.
But, I know you did. And, like, I think it's good. I think everyone wants to feel that way. Everyone wants to top their competition, and when you don't have outward competition, then it's good to have internal competition and be getting better against each other. And I think within that, we were really blessed because we still won football games. We still got these playoff experiences. We had cool wins and bad losses. I mean, we had it all. We had it all. And I think our junior year, we struggled to find an identity. And I don't mean that in any sort of negative way. I think, like, as a team, we couldn't figure it out. There was ups and there was downs, and we were pretty inconsistent in that matter. But it was cool because I thought we had cool seniors. I thought we were pretty blessed for the most part of having good seniors throughout our high school career, which is great because that can really go one or two ways. Mm-hmm. So, and that first year when we were freshmen, like you mentioned, like Connor in that class, I think they had like 6, 7 guys, and I was still only going into my second year of football, so I had never had a Pee-wee experience.
Right.
I had never, so that 1 year of junior high football with Coach Walls is all I ever knew.
Right.
And then we're on this like huge resurgence on the backside with Riverside football establishing itself from not losing all the time anymore, and then Connor was phenomenal to watch play. He was just relentless, and so that was awesome.
People talk a lot of, like, when we were playing, right, because a big name now, right, going into it is Kale Long, right? Mm-hmm. We both know Kale, very good friends with Kale. Obviously great, but before him, it was Connor Cotterman.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it was just different because we didn't get to experience the Kale Long, right? Because he was hurt all the time.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there was a lot of guys.
What a difference! There was a lot of guys
that
throughout
were really
that.
good. Caleb Stevens
was banged up, and Kale
Gavin
was
always hurt.
And what you gonna do, brother? And you were banged up, and I'm like, none of our pieces always seem to fall into place.
Yeah.
They always seem to be like, on paper, this is awesome. And that really, you're right. And Kale broke his back. Like, I can't remember if we just say that jokingly or if it was like a legitimate back break at some point, but he had a bad back that year. And, and so when I got to coach him and watch him dominate that way,
right,
I was so both impressed and happy to be coaching a kid that's doing this and be a part of this, and then so angry and saying, okay, well, a year ago, where were you when I'm losing to Minster by 50 in the playoffs and you're out here?
Right.
It's fun.
So you already mentioned you said something about the games we should have won.
Oh, yeah.
What's like the one?
Well, you know what I'm going to say. When we ran for 450 yards on Hardin Northern and still lost the ball game, that one hurt me.
Yeah.
We still joke about it as a coaching staff because they were coaching ball and all this. And I think that one really was really, 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 really tough. And another one that really sticks out to me is Ansonia, our senior year too, where we were running the ball all over the place, and we'd get into the red zone and we'd put the ball on the ground, or we'd get to bust this huge 70-yard run, and then it's coming back with a hold, and it was just like, okay, nothing's going right here. So.
And that's already 2 games right there that should have been.
That should have been one.
Yeah.
And in a 6-4 final record that year, and we played Lehman, and that loss stung.
Didn't play that game.
And that one stung. I think we ended up, I think it was 21-7 was the final.
Yeah.
And on a Thursday night, which was kind of cool, and they had the little local TV provider there, which was kind of cool. So we were on the local channel or whatever, and that one was tough. So but that all led up to where I'm so happy I got to be a part of these Lehman butt kickings that we dish out.
When you talk about that game, I mean, the only memory I have is that that clip I have of you sacking that, I don't even say his name, the quarterback.
Oh yeah, that was the highlight of like I wasn't some stud player by any means. I was just, I thought I worked hard. I lifted the weights and I ran the way I was supposed to, and I learned my stuff. And so that sack on him, who shall not be named, was awesome for me. That was a huge one of my just. Still locked in my memory, and to this day, it's still. I think if you pull up my laptop, it's still my home. It's still my home screen.
And man, it's still the coolest part about getting to record all this stuff is that you're gonna have that for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And maybe you can lie to your kid and say you beat them. But
yeah, and so that was a good year with some things we should have overcame, and then so when you don't win the ones you should have won, and then you don't get a great seed, and then you play a stud team, in the first round, and it's just like, but I'm super thankful we did win those games. We got a chance to win some really big games. We got a chance to make the playoffs. We got a chance to, our junior year, we went and competed with Delphus in the playoffs. Our senior year, we did not do. We did very short of competing. I can't think of a good word for that, but yeah.
So we talk about some of our not so favorite games. Maybe talk about your favorite one that you did play in.
My favorite one I ever played in. So I'm gonna say Perry, our senior year, was a ton of fun because they were supposed to beat us by 100 or whatever, and the league was still kind of up in the air, and it was pouring down rain. It was freezing, pouring down rain and freezing, and I think we were down 18-0. We were either down 18-0 or 12-0. This was the final score, ended up being 20-18, I think. And we were down big at halftime, and we went on a 7-minute drive before the half to score. And then we got the ball at the half, and we went on a 9-minute drive and went down and scored. And I got a really cool fumble recovery that I just he pitched the ball back, and it went like 30 yards. I had never ran like the wind and tried to get that thing. So
yeah, I knew that was going to be the game that you talked about because, when it was going on and we were still in school, we were still talking about that game, and it just hurt me every time, bro, because I had to watch it on the sideline.
Oh, yeah. And then I remember they ran a fake field goal, and I think it was Ejac that pushed him out at the 1-yard line, and that was awesome. And then the Lake, our senior year, how do us beating the Lake, skunking them out.
Sometimes when I ask the guys now, or when we were playing them, I would just kind of ask them, like, how do they feel about them? And so I was just kind of like, it's whatever, it's cool. When we were playing,
that was
just
pure
like
will.
Pure hatred.
That was that, yeah. Like,
did not like
we didn't get that, our school, and especially our football program, had went through such a time of just lackluster football,
right?
And in the earlier 2000s, and so those kinds of relationships, they weren't beneficial for anybody. So, but now, like when you see, like I said, like a resurgence and being a reoccurring playoff football team, like
right.
You want those big games, and I'm all for it.
Definitely one of my favorites, because I think that was like the first time I remember, at least, everyone storming the field. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was awesome.
So, how many years did you coach under Coach Walls, and what did you end up learning from him?
I coached 2 years under Coach Walls, and honestly, I owe all of it really to Coach Walls, because obviously junior high and varsity football are two different ball games. But the thing is I kind of talked to him about wanting to coach football. And he came to me actually at I think it was my graduation party. Like we had been graduated, and he was like, "So what do you think?" He's like, "I could use a hand," and blah blah blah. And I had nothing better going on, and I was like, "This is awesome." So I went and helped him, and I think that all the X's and O's aside, like the thing that I learned from him is really how to communicate with the young kids. They always just admired him, and I think it's because he just showed them attention and just real love and real care. And imagine how many just stupid stories and everything that he's had to listen to and just like be bored out of his mind. And he just did it, and they loved him for that. and he was just a really, really, really good someone to look up to, a really great role model.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's where football I really fell in love with it, was because of him. And I mean, I feel like there's two people at the top of my head that I can just kind of remember them believing in me before I believed in myself. Definitely Coach Walls. Thank you for letting me run the ball. And then Mrs. Weedock, man.
Yeah, she's awesome.
She changed my life forever. And, those two people right there are some of those people that believed in me before I believed in myself. So I'm very grateful for the both of them.
Yeah.
Just talking about Coach Walls, man. I mean, it was very cool to get to reconnect with him and talk to him, because he hired me to do some photography for his quartet. And it was just cool.
Which aren't they just awesome, by the way? They really are.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I used to love when they would come to the school
and sing.
And he's just great, and I love running into him and talking to him, and just really showed me how to be to be a good junior high head coach, because it's just a way you have to present yourself and do things different to the kids and get them to buy in. And so I learned a lot on how to run that the daily structure as far as interacting with the kids and what do I need to be talking to them about and asking them. And I'm also not in the school, so it's been
right.
It's a different aspect. So
I think both of us have been extremely blessed just to have great football coaches.
Oh yeah.
I mean, talk about Coach Walls and then Coach McGill, and obviously I've loved all 4 years of my time with Coach McGill during high school.
Oh yeah.
But definitely would have been cool just to see what it would have been like with Coach Hodge, man, because I have a lot of respect for him and just the way that he does things. So I'm just honored and blessed that he was coaching as an assistant while we were still going.
Yeah, and I think it's super cool. Me and Coach Hodge give each other a bunch of crap all the time, and it's funny. But I think it's kind of funny because we both have seen each other grow in two completely different ways. Like, he coached me, like, in high school as a young guy. Like, he was 22, 23, I don't know, when he shows up and starts coaching ball. And so I spent 4 years with him there, and now I've spent going on 6 years with him coaching.
Right.
And so I've seen, like, his whole family come together, and he's seen me, be married and buy a house and do these things. And so, which is really, really cool. And the thing is about Coach McGill is, like, Riverside football wouldn't be where it's at without him.
Right.
Because, like I said, there was such a slump for so long. And I'm not pointing fingers at anything. I'm just, just stating facts. There was no ball games won. And so when there's no ball games won, things aren't good for the program. And so he never coached a losing season and built that back. And then from we're not losing these games anymore to we're breaking even to now we're a playoff team. Now we're competing in the playoffs. And Coach Hodge and Coach Hodge is just built on top of that. Now we're not just competing in the playoffs; we're winning in the playoffs.
Deep run, yeah.
We're going on runs in the playoffs. And you can say that you opened it up and you're letting more teams in. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Let more teams in. Do whatever you want. It's just giving more kids that exposure. And you know what? The playoff brackets will determine themselves. If you don't have a business playing that other team, it's going to be shown on the scoreboard. Right. And so I don't see the big deal in that.
And, man, it's hard to win football games.
It's hard.
Especially when no one realizes what's going on behind the scenes. And so, like, I want to talk to you about this. The two guys I had on before, it was Andrew and Cam from Jonathan Alder. And, I mean, they were talking about they had to play London, at London, and Cam was talking about how he wasn't even able to practice the entire week because of an injury he was having with his shoulder. And then, the big guy, Andrew, he was talking about how he got hurt right before the halftime. And, people just don't and Cam still played that whole game and blew up, but just some things that people don't even realize is there's a lot of stuff going on in the locker room, whether it be an injury or maybe someone's going through something.
Oh yeah, and they're kids,
right?
And and they're kids, and that's just how I feel about it. Is like they are kids, and now the guys that are getting older and they're becoming, heck, some of them are 18 years old, with jobs and that pay bills and like. those kids are becoming young men, which I understand, but we're still young. I don't ever claim to be the most emotionally stable or under controlled person when there's a lot going on. So how can you expect a 16 or 17 year old to do that? So yeah, there's just so much that's going on, and it's such an emotional game.
Yeah.
It's so emotional, and people don't understand that because, the kids are fully invested into something. Fully invested, putting every ounce of spare time they have into something, and to lose or to win or to, you feel like you got a bad call or something silly. I mean, it's hard to maintain that composure all day. So
I want to get in now into your coaching career. Correct me if I'm wrong. So were you an assistant coach for junior high and high school at the same time, or did?
Pretty much. Coach Walls came and reached out to me. I was helping him for a few weeks to get and I would say it was like week one. Now, Coach Hodge might not admit to this, but I have an impeccable memory. So he and this dude's had 16 concussions.
Right.
So it was before week one, and he ran into me. We reached out, whatever. He's like, "You want to come in and help break down film?" Which now looking back, I completely understand why he was doing that. It's because breaking down film is terrible, and he was thinking he could just get me to do it. Graduate assistant, and I was happy to do it, and then so that became a week or two of just helping breaking down film. Then it became I was in the box with Coach O, and then it became I was, had actual responsibilities up in the box, and I was actually looking for things. And then it became I was going to both practices, and then it was just what it was from there.
I want to get a little deeper into like that first year of you coaching, because obviously already I'd imagine it's pretty hard going to both practices or just being a coach on both the junior high and the high school. But I want to talk about mainly because you were coaching right out of high school. Basically, your friends and the same people that are your age. So just kind of talk about how maybe it was tough at times, or just kind of that experience overall.
Yeah, and that's definitely why we were trying to keep a distance barrier of somewhat, but it was also kind of easier because were there guys that before I graduated that I palled around with? Yeah, but I just didn't. That wasn't the same thing 6 months later after I graduated. Right. I had a job and things like that, and I just wasn't as big of a authoritarian figure to those guys, and I didn't try to be because that would have created even more of a situation. So I just did what was asked of me, and that was breaking down film and helping at practice and just doing my things. And so it was definitely a struggle, and could it be frustrating at times, but I presented myself in a way to these guys that earned a little bit of respect and their gratitude, and they presented themselves back. And luckily, they were all great guys, and so we all got along just fine. And there just had to be a barrier there, and there was. It was a couple. It was football, and we left it at that, and that was great.
And you talked about how you said you were coaching under Coach Walls for 2 years, right?
Yeah.
So talk about that moment you found out you were about to be a head coach.
So that was awesome, and I was really thrilled, and I could kind of see the trajectory, the writing on the wall. If I just kept doing what was asked of me, doing a good job, everyone's always trying to just, stay out of trouble and just do the right thing, and that's what I was trying to do. That if I could be patient, that would probably happen for me, right? So, the first year, the year before I showed up, they went undefeated. And then the year I showed up, my first year, we went undefeated. And then my second year there with Coach Walls, we went undefeated. And that year, there was only 13 kids on the roster. Those kids were tough. And they were just really, really good at a young age. And now they've all went on to be really, really solid high school football players. Yeah, we just kind of talked about it, we kind of figured that a lot more of the decision-making would kind of gear over, to Coach Hodge, considering he had been the head coach for a few years when trying to get things lined up better. So it just came to some conversations of like, are you ready for this? Well, if you are ready for this, let me see. What would you be doing? How would you structure this? What would you be doing in practice? This is what we're going to run. Like, how are you going to run it? How are you going to present it? And I just kind of had the right answers to those questions. I did. And because I just knew how it needed to be structured. I'd paid a lot of attention, and it went well. And I was super thrilled. And, you know, I have good relationships with the admin and the coaching staff. And you just got to be, I was just very open about everything. This is what I wanted to do. I was pretty open. I just kind of said, this is what I want to do. I want to be the head junior high coach if Coach Walls is leaving. And I was just volunteering at this point anyway. And like, right. God knows you don't coach high school football for money anyway. So it's not like that's some sort of driving factor. So I was just like, I'd rather just volunteer my time and just stick to one. Because like I said, this would have been my third year of doing both. Yeah. And I said, I'd rather just, do that and stick to one if I'm not going to be the head coach. So they kind of pondered. They had figured that we kind of all pondered on that. And then it was just decided that's what we were going to do. And I was super, super happy my whole time doing it. Yeah.
So. What year was that then?
Well, 19 we would have graduated, so the 19-20 season, 20-21 season. So this would have been the 20-21-22 season would have been my first year.
So what was your record the very first year?
We went 1-6, and it was tough. And it's not just... It was a mixture of a lot of things. Like, I wasn't where I needed to be. This was my first year, right? So I'm making mistakes on the daily. The kids, they haven't. All these groups of kids throughout their different times are going to reach different levels, and they're going to peak at different times as far as when they're ready. And they weren't putting it together yet as far as a cohesive unit. So we struggled there. And it was okay because we got back to the basics. We were doing what we needed to be doing. We were running what plays we should have been running. And we just really focused, like Coach O, who had coached at Anna Junior High a long time and had, teams that were pretty successful and teams that weren't so successful. And he said, you just have to redefine what success means for you guys. And that's true. You have to be humble enough to do that. Like, not just me, but the kids have to realize that too. We're not going to beat everybody, I don't want to go out there and have the kids believe that. But if it's pretty apparent that we're struggling, then we just need to know that we need to beat ourselves every day and just get better. And that's what they did. There's quite a few of them that have turned into some pretty solid football players, and they go to lifting and they go to practice and they do what's asked of them. So,
and the reason I wanted to ask you that, because your growth, you win one game your very first year, and just this previous season you guys only lose one game, and you guys are the champions. So just kind of talk about how overall, you should be proud, but just how does that make you feel knowing, you did start from the bottom, now you made it to the top.
And it's all because of the kids, but I will say that I was super thrilled, over the 3 years that I spent as the head coach, that we did better every year, because I feel like I did my job a little bit.
So talk about this previous season. You guys only had that one loss, and you guys only had 2 close games. Every other game was just a blowout. Yeah. So just kind of talk about that.
Yeah. Like I said, the kids on that team were studs. Every single one of them. And then, I was at a point where I was comfortable enough to, call things I wouldn't have call bigger plays, call smaller plays. I felt like I was at my best offensive play calling, but at the same time, those kids were so good. Yeah. They were so good. So it just didn't. So it was up in the air. But to just see them do their thing all the time, and it had nothing to do with me, and just to watch them go out there and do that was awesome. And to see younger kids succeed and do really, really good, knowing that it's all going to kind of be pushed down, right? It's all going to kind of be buried behind the stuff you're about to do. But for this moment, it's super big for everybody, and that's what made me really happy.
And I want you to go into detail a little bit about these guys because, I mean, we all know how great of an athlete Brody and Gunnar are, and some other few like Justin and Liam. And now you get to coach these guys at the very next level.
Yeah.
So just kind of talk about how exciting you are to do something like that.
Yeah, and so we kind of touched on it. I've been coaching both for 5 years, so it's been super cool because I've just kind of, these seniors that just graduated with Miles and these guys, I had them in the 8th grade, and to watch them go and do all that, it's just phenomenal. Like when I really stop and look at everything that those guys accomplished, it just blows my mind. It really, really, really does.
Yeah.
So to have these guys specifically, Brody was super cool because Brody was like my right-hand guy. Yeah. He just was. He got to a point to where, okay, he memorized the playbook because on top of everything, he's like a straight A student the kid's a stud. Yeah. And so he got to the point where not only he had digested all of that information, he had basically digested how I thought and how I presented it to him. So the dude could have called the plays by himself because he was ready. He knew what I was thinking. He always knew what I was thinking. And he got so much better in year 1 to year 2, but not in overall football skill because he was such a natural at a young age with that stuff that it didn't. That he was such a natural at a young age with that. He commanded that, okay, guys, it's established. I'm the quarterback. I need you guys to listen to me. In the 6 seconds we're in this huddle, everybody stop talking, and they did that for him. And that's what I was super proud of him. He was so much more tough in all aspects, mentally and physically this year. So that was awesome.
One thing that was making me smile when you were talking about him, because I remember, I don't know, I think I was just recording pregame for high school, right? And me and you were talking, and Brody was like next to us, or like he was just around. And I think it was like the homecoming parade was going around, and I remember like we were looking at the cars, and he's like, "Hey, did they got a Chevy in there?"
Yeah, he's like, I don't see a Chevy anywhere. he's just funny, and they all were really funny, but they're all like 12, 13-year-old boys. Yeah. So it's a lot of like just toilet humor, and it's just like they're just funny, and and Gunnar, he's just big and strong. I mean, he lifts as much weights as half the varsity does these days, and he just flew around and ran people over. And then Liam, he played O-line and linebacker, and he flew around. And I'm just telling you, like, these guys, they're gonna do good things as long as they keep lifting weights and they're super coachable. So.
Right. And just kind of talk to me how it does feel to be a champion. I mean, the ultimate goal, right? Just to win, and then be called a champion. Yeah. So what's that feeling?
To be able to do it at both levels in 1 year, and that was just awesome. Right. I mean, I was so happy because a year ago when we went to Milton Union, and we kind of just all, you just take it in, and you're watching them celebrate, and you're hearing them, and you're just like, I just wish that was us. It's like, man, it's just like, man, we got an hour-long trip back home, and it's going to be miserable. Yeah. Like and there's nothing you can do about it because I'm a grown man, and I feel so empty after these big losses. Yeah. And mostly because I feel like, well, what could we have done as a coaching staff? And so I can only imagine how the kids feel. So it was just awesome. Like, you can go. We had a tough playoff loss last year, early, and it's like, well, at least you guys were champions. Like, guess what? Playoffs, that's awesome. But I'll tell you what, I want to win the league title every single year. Right. Before any of that starts. Right. So. And
we already talked about it a little bit, but you just kind of coaching both. So what was that kind of like when you're done coaching a junior high practice and being the head coach, and now going to coach the high school guys and taking a step back and being the assistant coach?
Yeah, no, that was. I understand your question as far as that goes, but it was. I completely just understood that dynamic, and if anything that I felt that strongly about that needed to be said or done, it could probably just be done because I feel that way, or second, I know that I can take that to Coach Hodge and we can figure something out. But it just makes for a long day. That's what it really does. Yeah. And so that's why I'll get more frustrated with the freshmen and sophomores. It's when I was running the same plays with them when they were in junior high, and then I'm going down to teach these young guys how to run these basic plays, and now I'm coming up to guys that should know how to run these plays, and we're struggling, and it's like, okay, now it's getting frustrating. I need you guys to get it together. But it just makes for a long day, but that's just how it is.
Right. And so now talk about how you found out, or what the situation was like when now you're stepping down as a junior high head coach, and you're coming up and being the O-line head coach, the O-line coach for the high school guys.
Yeah, so I don't know how much inside info this is, but it was after our playoff loss to you'll have to excuse me. I'm blanking right now.
Max School.
Yeah, of course, but to St. Henry.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Well, after our playoff loss to that, Coach O pretty much said that he was done, and I think Coach he's been coaching football for like 10 years plus. He's coached track. He's got kids.
Right.
He's just like, and so he wanted to take some sort of slowdown. So then I kind of figured it was up in the air after that, and then I'm thinking to myself, I have a new job. I recently got married. I was like, I want to coach football, but what comes with being the head coach is a little bit of this admin stuff, as far as you have to have paperwork done, turned in, and emails sent, and things like that. You got to have stuff scheduled and make the schedule, and talk to the parents a lot more. And it's like, I don't think, with me not working in the school, I just don't think that part of it is for me.
Okay.
And so we kind of talked about it, like, what are we going to do here? And it just kind of came to the decision that, that I'm going to come and coach, the O-line. And I learned to do that from Coach O, and I had awesome O-line coaches with Coach Davis and Coach McGill and Coach Bell, who's still on the staff. So There's I always have him to reflect on. So I feel like I'm ready for it, and I know how to structure the practice and make sure, like, our time within the practice, and make sure that it's beneficial to everyone. So, it just kind of came to it. We just kind of figured out. We were actually driving to Indianapolis and going to a clinic, which we were all riding together, and he was like, what are we going to do? Because I just kind of told him, I was like, if I do this, I can't do both anymore. Like, if I take on this whole responsibility as far as doing this, and it was pretty well understood that. So it was like, well, who are we gonna hire? What are we gonna do? Who are we gonna reach out to? Anybody got any ideas? I was like, well, let's just ask Coach O. It's when you're not doing both, there's an incredible time difference, and that's just because there's just less to do.
Right.
So, yeah, it worked out well.
One thing I talked to Coach Wright about was the amount of time and hours that you guys put in, the things that you guys sacrifice to be a coach. So I want you to talk a little bit about those hours that you have to put in to be a successful program, because I know that I've heard you guys talk about how you guys got to come in the very next day, watch film, break it down, study it, and just make sure that everything is ready for the next game next week. So just kind of talk about some of the things that people have no idea that you do.
Yeah, we'll talk about it here a little bit. I don't want to sound like I'm complaining, because I do it because I love it and I want to do it for the kids. But like you said, I mean, those Friday nights, win, lose, or draw, they're pretty short because we're back in the next morning breaking down film at 5:30, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock if you're Coach Hodge. But I'm just playing. But and people say that sounds a bit excessive. Well, there's not enough time. There's not enough days in the week. We got another game to play next Friday. We have to see our families at some point and go to church and do these things. And so that's it's either you do it Saturday morning or you do it Sunday morning, and so it's just kind of pick your poison. So you do it on Saturday morning and you have a JV game on Saturday morning,
right.
and you try to get a game plan done, and then on Monday you're just thinking about presenting this thing, presenting a game plan, and you're still watching film every day. So, you're presenting the game plan on Monday. You're going out for some sort of walkthrough, stretch, lift, whatever you deem is the best time, use of your time on a Monday. And then Tuesday and Wednesday are your only 2 work days. So,
right.
You got a full-fledged offense and a full-fledged defense day, or Coach Red would say it's always offense day. He gets all frustrated. So, you're there for 2 hours, but it's not just a 2-hour thing, and you get back and you wait, you check in with everybody. How are the kids doing? You can't do that right in practice, and you can't really do it before practice because everybody's showing up at the same time, and they've got to get a lift in, or everyone's getting changed, or us coaches have to talk about something or whatever. And then so now you're spending an extra half hour in the locker room checking with how are you guys doing? Let's talk about this. Why are you struggling with this? Well, today this segment wasn't good. So then now you got to take that information, and now you're sitting for another half hour with just the coaches trying to, unrattle your brains, like how the day went. And so it just doesn't really ever stop.
Right.
And that's just the nature of the beast. The games, it's pretty cliche, but the games, they're not won on Friday. They're just not. Because if you didn't have a game plan and you didn't have time to practice that game plan, it would mean nothing. So,
yeah.
I'm thankful to have the opportunity to do it. But it's just, it's very strenuous.
And I feel like a lot of things are going to change for you next season, since you don't have all the responsibility as a head coach, but now you got this whole brand new thing. So what are you most excited for going into next year?
I'm most excited so for the last 5 years when I broke down film, I would scout the opponent's offense, and when doing that, you would scout it and you draw their play and count what they're running and do what they're running. But the thing is you're so worried about just scouting the play and getting it to paper to do the rest of your stuff that you don't really have time to digest it,
right,
and truly study it. So what I'm hoping in this year is, while still I'm watching I'm going to be doing the opposite of that and watching a team's defense react to what the other team's doing offensively. So basically what I'm saying is I'm going to be doing the opposite as far as my film study goes. Right. I've been watching a team's offense. Now I get to watch the team's defense, which I'm hoping that helps me make me a better defensive coach. And watching so much defensive gameplay, I'm excited for that. I'm excited to be on the sidelines for a high school football game.
That's right.
I've only got to do that in blowouts, a few times, and Coach Hodge was always really stingy about it.
I would always ask you, you think you're going to come down to the sideline?
I get to the point where I stopped asking after a while. So I'm just super, super thrilled. I'm super excited for that.
Yeah.
My wife, who lets me do this all and helps me do this all, she has worked second shift for 4 years, and she's working first shift now, so I'm super excited
awesome.
For her to see me coach football, which she's seen a handful of times,
right,
but really I'm excited for her to be there through the whole time. And I couldn't imagine being a coach's wife because it's annoying. I'm annoying now, let alone during football season.
So right before we end it off, I just got this last question for you. What has been the most enjoyable thing about being a coach?
just watching the kids grow up. I mean, the football success is awesome because I'm so happy I've got to watch these kids grow up and do some really cool things on the football field.
Right.
But like I said, these seniors I had in the 8th grade.
Yeah.
So this class I've coached all the way through, and then, you know, these rest of these classes I will have too. But to just watch them grow up and, you know, watch them as freshmen to their like last game, and it's just super cool. Like, I want to be a positive role model for them. All right. And I coach football and I don't work at the school. So it gives me kind of a different dynamic as far as, hey, I made this work. Like, you know, I'm an HVAC technician and a plumber. And so, like, and I still find a way, thank God for my awesome boss that lets me coach football, but, like, it doesn't have to be so cookie cutter. And that's what I want them to see. And so I'm just super happy to watch them grow up and do really cool things and get jobs and get their license and go to school or, you know, whatever, but just to really watch them become young men.
And kind of going back to senior year, man, it's just you would always talk about being a coach. And, again, I would even separate myself from when we were hanging out just to edit. You know, I'd go into separate rooms and just kind of do my own thing. And to see, I don't know, it's all real.
Yeah, it's all super cool. Like I said, this is my first time seeing your studio, and like, but to see this, it's all super cool because, like you said, like, you've been doing this, and to see everybody just being happy and doing something, you know, who knows, like, there may never be some big financial payoff for everything we do, but to know that we did it for, you know, however many years, it's super, super happy to know we were able to do that.
Isn't it crazy?
It's crazy. It's crazy. I didn't know, and you know what's crazy is I didn't become an HVAC tech until about a year ago. Yeah. And when I was in high school, I said I was going to be an HVAC tech, and then went off and did like completely just
some random
stuff. And to still find myself being an HVAC technician is crazy.
Listen, man, I'm just super proud of you and everything you have accomplished, because, like we talked about, that was the conversation we had forever ago. And it's just really cool to see you doing your thing and just watching you just go, 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 go.
Well, I could say the same about your stuff, because your stuff is all over for, you know, all over the county and in schools surrounding. So that's super, super cool. And I lied to you and said that I'd watched a bunch of your podcasts before, but I did watch a handful of them. And to see, like, all these, it is really cool to see these kids from different schools, and that, like I said, we're really good football players or whatever, and to see you know, doing things at other schools, which everyone pokes fun at you about, but it's actually super, super cool.
I gotta make money.
Yeah, but you gotta make some money. So, this is awesome.
Listen, man, I'm really, really happy you came by today. It was nice to catch up because we don't talk as much as we used to, but I'm just happy that you're doing your thing and that you're happy, and, you know, just thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Like I said, everything that all this, I just love helping the kids, and the kids help me as much as I help them, and we couldn't do it all. We couldn't do anything at all without our Savior and without the Father, and I'm just thankful. I'm thankful for your time. Thank you for Coach Hodge and the school and the rest of the coaches. Thank you.
Awesome. Perfect.